We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Israel recovers the bodies of slain hostages. Violence outside the DNC continues. A possible Trump-RFK alliance, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. The Israel Defense Forces recovered the bodies of 6 deceased Israeli hostages in a rescue operation on Monday, the forces announced. Overnight, our forces returned the bodies of 6 of our hostages that had been held by the murderous Hamas terrorist organization, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement. Our hearts grieve over this terrible loss, Netanyahu said. My wife Sarah and I convey our heartfelt condolences to the dear families. I would like to thank the brave IDF and ISA fighters and commanders for their heroism and determined action, he added. The State of Israel will continue to make every effort to return all of our hostages, the living and the deceased. More than 70 pro-terrorist agitators were arrested during the second night of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago amid violent clashes outside the Israeli consulate that included the burning of American flags and shouting "F you" to police working the scene. The Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest released a statement applauding law enforcement's response, saying, "We are appalled to see violence during the protest in front of our offices. This is anything but peaceful and completely contradictory to the spirit of the DNC," it said. This vocal minority does not represent the vast bipartisan majority of Americans who stand strong in support of Israel. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, has lost track of tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors over the last 5 years. An internal watchdog within the Department of Homeland Security sent a report to Congress on Tuesday titled Management Alert. ICE cannot monitor all unaccompanied migrant children released from DHS and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services custody. The interim report warns that over the past 5 years, more than 32,000 unaccompanied migrant children are no longer accounted for by ICE. During our ongoing audit to assess ICE's ability to monitor the location and status of unaccompanied children who were released or transferred from the custody of the Department of Homeland Security and U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, we learned ICE transferred more than 448,000 unaccompanied children to HHS from fiscal years 2019 to 2023, the internal watchdog reported. However, ICE was not able to account for the location of all the unaccompanied children who were released by HHS and did not appear as scheduled in immigration court. ICE reported more than 32,000 unaccompanied children failed to appear for their immigration court hearings from fiscal years 2019 to 2023. The independent presidential campaign of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is considering abandoning his quest for the White House to join forces with Republican nominee Donald Trump, Kennedy's running mate Nicole Shanahan said in a new interview posted online Tuesday. Shanahan said the campaign is also considering remaining in the contest to try to win more than 5% of the popular vote and establish ourselves as a third-party alternative to the Republican and Democratic parties and build on that ballot access for the 2028 election. There's 2 options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Walz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, Shanahan said in the interview on the Impact Theory podcast. Or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump. And we walk away from that and explain to our base why we're making this decision, Shanahan told interviewer Tom Bu. Additionally, Shanahan said that President Biden at this point is basically president in name only. No matter what your opinion is of Joe Biden, if you love him or if you hate him or don't really care, you have to realize that something feels very wrong about how the Democratic Party ran a full court press campaign to get him out of office after he won 14 to 15 million votes in the primaries, she said. Isn't it strange how he bowed out because he didn't feel like he could serve another 4 years, but somehow he's okay to serve 4 more months as we face historic inflation, debt, and war? Any impartial observer can look at that and realize the DNC machine did what they always do. They pushed someone out they couldn't successfully puppeteer, Shanahan said. So much for defending democracy. In yet another blow to Biden's EV mandate, Ford is canceling plans for a large electric sport utility vehicle and expects to take $1.9 billion in related special charges and write-downs as automakers continue adjusting their EV plans because of softer than expected demand. The Dearborn, Michigan automaker this spring said it would delay plans for an electric 3-row SUV by 2 years to a 2027 release date. On Wednesday, the company said it is scrapping the model altogether, citing tough pricing pressures as automakers resort to aggressive discounts to move their EVs. The company also pushed back the launch of a new electric pickup truck by 1 year until 2027 and cutting their spending on electric vehicles. A nonprofit group has launched an investigation into the Secret Service's diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in the wake of the attempted assassination of former President Trump last month. Mountain States Legal Foundation, MLSF, a Colorado-based organization, says it is looking into how the controversial policy may have led to security being dangerously lax at Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where Thomas Matthew Crooks managed to scale the roof of a nearby building and fire off 8 shots with 1 bullet grazing the right ear of the former commander-in-chief. One attendee, Corey Compitore, was fatally struck, while 2 others were also hit and suffered serious injuries in an event that could have plunged the nation into a political crisis. MLSF says its investigation is examining how DEI impacted the elite agency's hiring, retention, and promotion. Critics of DEI say the policy elevates those of a certain sex or ethnicity over those who may be more qualified. Thus, the best person for a particular job may not get the role, thereby lowering standards overall. A federal judge in Texas on Tuesday struck down a landmark regulation issued by the Federal Trade Commission that sought to ban employers from using non-compete agreements to prevent most workers from joining rival firms. U.S. District Judge Ada Brown ruled that the Commission's authority to police unfair methods of competition couldn't be used to issue substantive regulations that ban an entire category of conduct. The role of an administrative agency is to do as told by Congress, not to do what the agency thinks it should do, Brown wrote in her opinion. The ban issued in April was part of an FTC Chair Lina Khan's effort to crack down on tactics that restrict the ability of workers to switch jobs. Outlawing non-competes is hugely popular with many workers, and the FTC estimated its rule would have boosted earnings by allowing employees to move more freely between companies. Asteroid mining sounds like the stuff of science fiction, but asteroid mining startup Astroforge has raised $55 million. Later this year, it plans to fly by a near-Earth asteroid, taking pictures and gathering data. If successful, it would be the first ever private space mission to fly past a solar system body other than the moon. That's the raw naked truth. You can catch every episode of The Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.